see you again.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, or events or something.
I didn't see that. You put in words in my mouth.
All right, so on your sheets for starters, I kind of want to do a little review. We're getting into definitely some more complex stuff with investing. So what was the difference between a Roth IRA and a regular IRA? How would you characterize the difference? One Roth and regular, or traditional, we call it.
I got one like major difference that you kept like saying was that when you take out the money of Roth IRA, it's not taxed.
It's not taxed, yeah, that's right. So it's the timing of the tax benefit. So this whole chapter is about the coats. So we got the coat. And, oh, that's a lousy coat. And then we got the cookie jar. All right, so this chapter is about the coats. What are the coats? 401k is good. That's an example of it. Yeah.
Wasn't it also like RTFs?
IRA. Were they what? The ETFs?
Yeah.
The ETF is actually over here,
Oh, my bad.
which is an exchange traded fund, which is like a mutual fund. So the mutual fund lives over in the cookie jar. And the 401k is an example of what? What is fundamentally the code? Not necessarily a specific, like Raven gave an example of specific, which is fine. But what is the code? Protection against? Taxes, right? So that's all the code is it's a tax benefit thing that was generated by the government, by the United States government, in order to give you an incentive to do more, buy more cookies, so that you set yourself up better for retirement, so that you're not on the government dole on welfare and everything else when you are 70 years old. Let's at least give a little incentive for you to try to take care of yourself by cutting you a tax break earlier in life, right? So we have the 401k, and then it was the IRA, and we're going to spend some more time on this today, the Roth IRA, and the timing of the tax was the big thing. So we had, let's go ahead and write all this stuff on your papers, because I want you to, whatever I write on the board, write on your papers, you'll turn it in, because this helps, if you guys didn't know this, writing it down actually burns it into your memory a little bit more, even if you don't get it back, it helps. All right, so then, just again, kind of a review, 10K IRA, 10K Roth. And so what we went over yesterday is that this part of the little matrix here with the 3 columns where we were doing a buy, hold, and sell. And sell is your retirement. At the time you buy, when you do it the good old-fashioned way, you're basically paying taxes along the way. Tax, tax, tax. If you have a traditional IRA, the tax benefit comes at the front end. And while you hold it, but the big benefit comes at the front end. So no tax, and then taxed. And the Roth IRA, you get taxed on your income up front, but then it's no tax while you hold and no tax at the end. So if you kind of remember those fundamentals, this is just a regular old cookie jar. So this is cookies. This is cookies with the coat. And this is cookies with a different coat. Let's call it coat number 1 and cookies with coat number 2. So just a different type of coat that you're putting around your cookies. All right, any questions there? So this will be on your finals, knowing what the code is, knowing what the cookies are. For the cookies, what sort of mutual funds are we buying? What's going to be the composition of our cookie jar? What kind of cookies are we buying with our mutual funds?
Over 25.
Large cap, good, yeah. How much?
25.
25% of our holdings is going to be in large cap. 25% mid cap, medium sized firms. 25% small cap, and then yes, 25% international. So we've got a lot of cookies. By this time, we own thousands of companies, by the way, right? Because even one of those cookies in the large cap probably has 500 in the S&P 500 approach. So you've got 500 there. By the time you had all these, you've literally bought thousands of companies. So you're well, what's the big D word? Well diversified. You now own a well diversified portfolio, even if your long-term investments are only currently at $3,000. Like you're just starting out, you got $3,000. You actually have a well diversified portfolio of $3,000. You probably have less dollars in than the number of companies you own potentially. You might have over 3,000 companies and you only have $3,000, right? So it's possible to be well diversified even if you don't have a ton of money into it. Okay, questions there? Brandon?
So how do you go from having like a mutual fund to getting a Roth IRA to cover? Like, do you automatically cover? Like, how do you get covered?
If I'm understanding you right, like basically, how do you buy the coat? How do you get the coat, or is that kind of what you're asking?
Cover what you want to cover?
Okay, so at the time you buy it, so you only get, we'll get into this a little bit more later today, but let me say it now. You're going to have a maximum number, a dollar value of coats you can buy in a given year. So each year the coat is actually maxed out. It's about $6,000 per person. So if you're a married couple, you've got $12,000. Now you might be investing, depending on your income. Baby step number 4 is 15% of income. 100,000 between the two, that's 15,000. The most you can buy in coats in a given year would be 12 if the law was 6,000. You with me? So you're still going to be buying unprotected cookies to the tune of 3,000. That's not bad. At least you got cookies going. You don't have quite the tax break, but they basically cap out the tax break so that you can't. So imagine a person that's making $1 million a year and buying 600,000 of cookies. They're not going to give them tax breaks on all 600,000, right? So they're capped off for the average person. Like if you're putting $12,000 a year into long-term investments for retirement, that's who they're trying to hit, is the average Joe out there for this tax benefit. So to get the coat, you go to a broker to buy, whoever you buy your mutual fund from, they are kind of sanctioned by the government, right? Because they're regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission to put a code around it. And then they keep the accounting for you. So wherever you buy your mutual funds, you can't just run to Walmart and buy a mutual fund, right? You got to buy it through a registered broker. That registered broker is authorized to keep track of whether you bought an IRA or a Roth IRA, or both, by the way. You can mix these up. You can buy half of this, spend $6,000 on regular IRA and $6,000 on Roth. And then they're going to keep track of that accounting. Once the investment's set up, then next year it just gets that same amount added to it. And they also keep track of whether you hit the limit or not on a given year too. So they're basically, if you were putting in $15,000 into all these cookies, the brokerage is going to keep track. Oh, only 12,000 gets protected. Like you don't have to do any of that homework. It's kept track by the government, by the broker, who then reports that to the government. Next question. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so here is our discussion question. Let's see if I can blow this thing up and get it down here. Should you ever stop adding to your retirement plan? If so, under what conditions? And when would you start up again? So take a minute here to answer that question. Should you ever stop adding to your retirement plan? Raven, number between 3 and 7.
5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Gunner, what do you think? Should you ever stop having your retirement plan? If so, under what conditions? And then you should stop for that year. So if you don't get the tax benefit, don't do it. I'll let you chew on that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 daily.
I said no.
No, shouldn't ever stop.
I think you should continue, because it's still like a safety, like a backup.
Okay,
Like a safety net.
like an emergency fund almost, or
Kinda.
okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Abby.
I said that if like your mom was going away, maybe you should stop having that while you're trying to build back up.
Okay, all right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now,
I said you should never stop.
never stop. Josh.
If you lose your income, you can stop.
Caleb.
Say don't stop until retire.
Don't stop the investing. Michael.
In case a situation happens where you can't keep, like what she said, if you lose your income, then you
Okay.
should save.
Okay, if you lost your income. So let's so I like Abby's answer the best.
Go ahead.
Way to go, Abby. Why did I like Abby's answer the best? What was your answer again?
If you're going away, you
Okay, now somebody else other than Abby, tell me why that's the best answer. Okay, you want to always want 1,000 for sure, but that's baby step number 1. So let's write these down on your paper too. You need to have these memorized for the final. $1,000 emergency fund. I'll use abbreviations here, except if you make less than 20,000, it was 500. Remember. Baby step number 2. Pay off all debt, except for the house. Number 3. 3 to 6 months, and it's not an income technically. Expenses, but your expenses might be, it's kind of okay to think that way, but technically it's 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses. No, because some of it could be the savings that you're doing for something else. So technically you could net that out if it's not truly your ongoing expenses. The idea of it is that if you lost your job, if you lost your income, here's your expenses in life. I can last 3 to 6 months without having any income. So this one kind of addresses, I think it was Michael and Raven, about if you lost your income, or was it you, Caleb? I can't remember. So if you lost your income, would you stop retiring? Well, or doing the retirement? Yes, because you're starting to dip into this, which kind of brings us back to Abby's, right? So you lost your income. Now, instead of having, let's say you had 4 months, you're down to 3 months. And then another month goes by and you're still unemployed, you're down to 2 months. Well, you need to start replenishing this before you hit baby step number 4, which was our 15% of income to retirement. Now, so both you guys said some good things, but the loss of income was really captured here with baby step number 3. And so I liked Abby's answer in that it pointed back to our roadmap. This is our overarching roadmap that we just go back to, right? If something happens, where are you at on this path? Let's go ahead and list them all out here. Number 5, we haven't done this for a while. College fund, good. So college fund for kids, if that's applicable or may be applicable in the future. 6, pay off your mortgage, pay off your house. And then number 7, build wealth and do what? Give. Build wealth and give. And it's not like we're just starting to give now. We have that whole giving chapter that it's important as part of your budget, even if it's not a lot of money maybe at the time, to maybe just keep that part of your exercising your mental health and your soul as you go through the process. You might be given a little bit, but now you're in a really good position to tip somebody $100 that's having a rough night at the restaurant that you're at, right? Okay, so there's our baby steps, and the key to answering this then is, should you ever stop adding to your retirement plan? Yes, if something happens here where we're disrupting, of course you wouldn't be here if you weren't here. So this would be the first place that things are getting disrupted, right? Is here. And then of course, if something happened and you really fell off the wagon and you took on some debt or something, hopefully by the time you get to this point, you see the light of like, oh yeah, I'm never doing that again, right? But you know, life happens. You never know what might go on. I actually had a person who was looking to rent a rental property of mine, and I did not know this. So you learn something new every day, and I teach personal finance right now. But they had a bankruptcy, and so I've rented to people with bankruptcies before, but this one was fairly recent. It was just in 2020 that they had a bankruptcy. And sometimes as a landlord, that's good. That means they don't owe anybody any money because they just went bankrupt and now they can pay their rent if they don't get themselves into trouble again. So I did my normal interview with them, and I found out that it was medical bills debt because their daughter had cystic fibrosis and ran up. They had like $40,000+ worth of medical bills. And then, but their daughter was 26 now, I think. And when I interviewed him, he said, yeah, well, our daughter was on my healthcare plan, so I got the bill. And that had never dawned on me before, that an adult child's medical could come back to him. And he said, I'm like, did you check on that for sure? And he said, yeah, the bills were in my name because it was my medical plan that she was under. So even as an adult, because she used their insurance, the bill came back to mom and dad, even as an adult child. So I didn't know that. That was a new one for me. I just figured you're an adult, it's your bill. If you get sick, you pay the bills, right? Even if it's under my health plan, that's not the way it works. So they ended up having to do bankruptcy. At least they thought they did. So, all right. Questions or comments there? And of course, when do we start up again? As soon as you go back to that. Yeah. Once this bucket is full, then you move back down to here and you're way going. So, all right, let's do our last video. So remember number 3 was assigned. 2 and 3 was on your own last night. Finishing 2 and then number 3. When you're put in those circumstances, you find a way to do it if that's what needs to be done. So that'll be a conversation you can have down the road as you do that. I have found my experiences with my friends and other things. I really advise that you have your kid pay some of the freight, and maybe whatever that amount is. It's just if they have a little skin in the game, it means a little bit more, right? As far as making it to class, doing my work, getting decent grades. If you have some skin in the game, not every kid's like that. Some kids will just perform fine, just because that's the way they are. But on average, I think it helps if students have a little bit of skin in the game of their own. Okay, so we are going to, let's see. Oh, I wanted to go over Rule of 72, but let me pass this out first. So, does anybody remember the Rule of 72? What is that rule? It's a simple rule that's kind of cool. That's not too big of a big line thing for it. Take one and pass it back. Rule of 72. Anybody want to take a stab? Taylor, you were shaking your head. Did you want to take a stab, or you just kind of remember you heard of it? Huh?
It's an interest rule. So if you invest by 18, by 72, you'll be a millionaire.
If you do what?
It has to do with interest.
It does have to do with interest, yes. And if you do what?
If you invest younger by this amount of years, you'll be
Okay. That's where you're going off the track, but it is an interest thing. And it just says, how long will it take my money to double? So if I put $2,000 in an investment, how many years will it take me to double it to 4? That's all it's saying. And so if you put your money into a savings account that's generating 1%, how long will it take that 2,000 to double? Well, the rule of 72 says that, and put this down on your papers that you're turning in, number of years to double is equal to 72 divided by the interest rate. And so, for example, if you get 1%, then 72 divided by 1 equals 72 years. So you take $2,000 of your hard-earned money and you're like, oh, I'm going to invest, and you get a 1% rate of return. Your 2,000 will become 4,000 in 72 years. You might even be dead by it, right? So we need to do better than 1% is the moral of the story. So if I find 10%, then 72 divided by 10 equals 7.2 years. Much better. It just turns out to be kind of a weird anomaly that 72 divided by the rate tells you the number of years to double. And so it's kind of a nice rule of thumb to use. And so if we get into that 10% range, that 2,000 turns into 4,000 again in just 7 years, right? Now, Carter, if you guys want to go ahead and pull your phone out, you can use it as a calculator today. We're going to get into this assignment here in a sec. I did find Carter's annual statement, and right now, as at the end of the year, it was 13%. So if you get 13%, what is 72 divided by 13? How long will it take Carter to double his money if he continues to get? He had 9,200 in there, I think was his ending statement here that he texted me. How much? 5.5 years. So was it 5.5 or 5.4? 5. Okay, we'll just call it 5.3. All right. So 5.5 years. So even there, check it out. I just wanted to point this out, that going from 10% to 13%, which might not sound like, oh, 10 or 13, no big deal. It makes your money build faster, and you're getting more of that interest on interest, and the doubling effect can kick in a lot quicker. All right, questions on the rule of 72. It's kind of a nice, handy thing to know. So let's go ahead and get into groups, minimum of 3, maximum of 4. This thing takes a little bit of brain power, so I want you guys to pool your brains together. So minimum of 3, maximum 4. Feel free to move your chairs around, kind of get close enough so that you can talk to each other and work on our group project. Minimum of 3, maximum of 4. Go for it. Okay, write down the people in your group. Write your first name, last name on the sheet, and then the first name of the people in your group. So you should have at least 2 other people and possibly 3 with our grouping arrangements here. All right. Up at the top, make sure your first name, last name's under the name, and then write the other person's just first name only for your partners in your group. Okay, so what we're doing with this exercise is working through what our 15% baby step number 4 is going to look like. So our 15% of our income, we're going to have our combined income of a number of different people. You guys ready here? So here is our investments for different people. Here's their annual salaries. And so the directions are: complete an investment chart based on the facts given in each situation. Assume that each person is following Dave's advice of 15%. Remember to follow the sequence of contributions recommended in the lesson. Who remembers what that was? I don't expect any of you to remember this, so it's worth an extra credit point if you do. What was the recommended sequence of contributions with Roth versus traditional, which is 401k, 401k versus Roth? It was in the video. Extra credit, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, crickets. That's exactly what I expected. That's a pretty tough question. That's why I wanted to reward you with extra credit if you got it. So what do we have a preference for, first of all? Roth or traditional? Roth, right? Because of the tax benefits, not having to worry about taxes at the end. So remember that part of the equation first. Roth IRA has a preference, but a lot of employers do a matching program. Ottawa University is one of them. So you put in $1, they put in $1 is what a 1-for-1 match is. So pretty good deal, right? You're doubling your money, right? You put in $1, your employer puts in $1. You just doubled your money with that investment. Is that a good deal? Yes. That has higher preference over the Roth. So your employer is constrained with whatever retirement plan they have, and it might be the traditional plan, which is why we're doing this. So your employer has a 401k, and this is their matching plan. You put in $1, they'll put in $1, up to 5% of your income. So up to 5% of your income. So if you make $40,000, what is 5% of the income? Yep, pull out your calculators. 5% of 40,000. How much? 2,000 bucks. So we've got 2,000. Is it 2,000? Okay. So $2,000. And now, how much are you supposed to be putting in? 15%. So are we at the 15% level yet? No. But that's the max that you get the contribution. So now you're going to flip over to the Roth. And how much are you going to put into the Roth then? Another, how much? What's the most that we're putting in? What's 15% of 40? 6,000.
Well, I meant 10%.
Oh, the other 10. Okay, 10%, yes. So we have, which would be so we're going to do 6,000 total is 15%. So I have a little line item over here that you can put a couple different things. Your total annual investment is always 15% of this number. So go ahead and write that in for this one. We're trying to do this first one a little bit together here to give you an example. So we're going to put $6,000 total in. 2,000 of it is going to be here because that was the match. And 4,000 into the Roth, and we're done.
Wait, how did you know it was the match?
Because of here, our employer told us we'll do a dollar for dollar matching up to 5%. So then this extra 10% is going into the Roth. So this is the employer side, and then we got the Roth. So grand total is 6. Now I have this extra column that I wanted you to add, put amount matched. How much did the employer actually kick in this example? 2,000. You put in 2,000, they put in 2,000. So really, you actually have 8 going into your account. But we don't want to include the amount that the employer matched because sometimes matching dollars disappear. And we want you in control of your investments, not some outside force. Case in point, Ottawa University. We ran into some budget problems, and bye-bye match. We get a little letter in the mail that says, professors, we love you, and we know that you work hard, and other staff members too. By the way, everybody gets this match thing, of the janitors and everybody. We love what you do for Ottawa University, but times are tough, and so we're taking away the match. Here's the good news. We're not going to give you a pay cut, but we're going to take away your match, right? And so we want you in the driver's seat. Then they restored part of our match. Anyway, I'm not trying to air dirty laundry, but I'm trying to give you a glimpse of how the real world works, that we don't want to bank on that. So we're going to do our 15% with this column, and then move forward. Now, one last thing before I turn you loose. The match is actually maxed out. And so we're going to do what this exercise says is 5,000. That was based on 2011. I just Googled it so that we could check out what the current one is. It just bumped up from 5,500 to 6,000 now in 2020. So the match is up to 6,000 is the maximum. So what that's saying, that's different than your employer match. That is the amount that the IRS allows you. Remember when we talked over here about the IRS trying to help average people, not necessarily out there to be a scheme for the rich? That's what we mean. So they're gonna allow you to put this coat on up to in the IRA anyway of up to 6,000 for real world terms, but we're gonna use 5. All right, go to work. And you should read, by the way, this little bullet here at the end. Melissa will fund the 401k of the match, the remainder, and Tyler and Megan, blah, blah, blah. There's a little bit of extra information with each one.
I get the original stuff for the.
Okay, I think you guys are probably about all done with the boxes. So these 3 questions I want you to answer at the bottom. Why not include the employer match as part of the 15%? Not a part of your plan, right? So it may or not come, like you saw, some places don't have a match. And so you want to be able to, transfer from one place to the other. So we're not going to bank on that for our long-term plan. Can the investment be the same for the 401k as the Roth? Can they be the same investment? No, not the number amount. What's being invested, the mutual funds and stuff. The actual can it be the same investment? Where we're doing like with Tyler and Megan, we had 10,000 in one and 5,750 in the other. Can that be in the same investment? Yeah, that's the right answer. But a lot of people don't get that. So you could be investing in exactly the same cookies. You're just wrapping a different coat around it, right? So the coat is separate from the cookies. So question number 2 is, can the investment be the same? Yes. You could be buying the Vanguard, S&P 500, whatever, mutual fund. You can buy the exact same cookies. And to Raven's point, they can be different amounts, like Tyler and Megan here again. They got 10,000 with Roth. Those could be the exact cookies as the 5,750. So the amounts could be different. That's totally fine too. But you're investing in the same thing that you found to be a good investment. That's what you're putting your money into. So the cookies can be the same, even if the coats are different. Anybody got a question on that? Yeah, Abby?
Question on the paper.
Okay. Which one?
With Brandon.
With Brandon, okay.
I got the 401k number.
For here?
Yeah.
So, you got this part, 35,000, 5,250 is the total investment. And so then it's just a matter of figuring out what the match is. So he puts in $2, by the way, the employer puts in $1, so it's a 50-cent match. That's not really part of solving this, but I just wanted to highlight that the match can be different. Like right now, I put in $5, Ottawa University puts in $3. They kind of chinsed us on when they brought it back, they didn't bring it back to the 1-for-1 basis. So the matching scheme can be different. Essentially what this says is you put in $1 and your employer puts in 50 cents. Is what the 2-for-1 match is. So that's up to 6% though. By the way, that's pretty good. Like some places would be 5, Ottawa University used to be 5%, some of them might be 3%. So even though this is a lower match, it is for a bigger amount of your income. So you get to up to 6%. So 6% of 35,000 is where we start because it's the match.
See, and I divided that by 2 because I thought that would.
Oh, you were trying to do something with this business over here? Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, so you want these 2 numbers ultimately to add up to your total 15%. So you start here, and then with this particular problem, we started here, and then we filled up our bucket With the Roth, because we had a $5,000 limit, we were still under the limit, so then we maxed it out.
Yeah, the match is 1,050, right?
What do you mean, with this problem?
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about how much got matched? It would be, yeah, it'd be half of this amount. Yeah, so 1,050 is how much the employer ended up matching.
Okay, yeah.
Does that make sense? So you put in $2, the employer put in $1. So they still gave you $1,000. It's not a bad deal, but it's just not quite as good as. Obviously, this one is the big one, right? You put in $1, the employer put in $2. That's the best one up there. Okay, any other questions on the numbers? Then this last one, again, we talked about this already. Why do the Roth IRA if there's no match? What's the reason we're not doing the 401k? We're doing the Roth? Because you're not taxed when? At the end. The 401k, you get the tax benefit still. It's at the beginning. By the way, the 401k has a maximum contribution of up to $18,000 a year. So the IRA is the 6 currently, not with this problem. But you can put in up to $18,000 into the 401k. So it has a higher maximum contribution. It's all your money, but that's how much tax benefit you can take advantage of. Okay, any last questions on this one before we put it to bed? All right, so let's go to our case studies. You guys can stay in your seats here. We're going to have you work on this one together too. All right, we got Jasmine. Jasmine's 401k. Jasmine is 29, makes 85 grand at her current job as public relations director. She's single, completely debt-free. Her company offers a matching program to all employees of 100% up to the first 3% and 50% of the next 3%. Jasmine is currently funding her 401k at 10%. What retirement contribution advice would you give Jasmine? Explain your answer. So write this answer, and you can talk with your friends there in your group. What would be your advice to Jasmine? Now I'm kind of having you put on a consulting hat. You guys are reaching that level. We're towards the end of the course. Here's what Jasmine's doing. What advice would you give Jasmine? What's she going to hit with the max? It's 5 if we kind of follow the exercise we just did, but technically it's 6 right now. So that means she'd do 6,000 in the Roth, and then she'd still have 3,000 yet to go, following Caleb's logic of 15%. That would go back to the 401k. So then you'd have a combination of that, would be the breakdown of 401k versus that. But that's not the answer I was actually looking for. That is part of this answer, but it's dependent upon something very important. When should you be putting 15% into your retirement? What? I think I heard the right answer. Fully funded emergency fund. Back to the baby steps. Do we know that she has a fully funded emergency fund? No. We are told that she's debt-free. So she's baby step number 2. So a real sophisticated college-like answer for you guys to have for the final exam would be something like, Jasmine, you first should make sure you have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved as an emergency fund. And if you were really having a dialogue with her, you'd say, you can have that, right? And I know you're debt-free. If she has that, then she goes to the 15% of the income. Then we go to Caleb's answer of 6% first with that one, do the match, and then calculate that she can do a max of the Roth at 6, and then go back to the 401k, and that's kind of the investment advice. And then you could even get into more stuff later if you wanted to, but that's kind of where this problem goes. Okay, questions or comments there? So the main thing on your paper for your answer is say, if you got a fully funded emergency fund, then do 15% instead of 10. And then we can get into the other details, which I'm not going to grade you on, so don't bother writing it down. But do put that, because that'll be the start of probably one of your final exam questions. It'll be something along the lines of, if you have a fully funded emergency fund, then you can proceed on. All right. Alex and Selena. Alex and Selena are 25 and love to dream about what they'll do when they're retired. They want to own a summer home in Florida, travel to Europe, spend some time visiting family around the United States. To support this dream, they need a retirement income of $100,000 a year throughout their retirement. At their current retirement contribution, they're expecting to have $2 million by age 65. Will that be enough money for them to fulfill their dream? How would we go about solving this one? I'm not going to ask you to write it down. We're going to just do this as a class. Calculate the method here. So how much up? They've got 2 million. So what would we need to take? Not divided by in this case because we're going to get 8% interest. So take your calculators. 0.08, 8% is skimming the cream off the top. If that's the interest, if they get 8% on $2 million, what's your answer on your calculator? How much? 60,000? 160. Are they going to be able to realize their dreams?
No.
Why? 60,000 short. So how much do they need for the year? So what's 8% of 2 million? 8% of 2 million is $160,000, right? Are they good to go?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, to the tune of 60,000 plus. So their retirement plan looks good. If they end up getting 8%, in fact, what's going to happen to their little graph of the 2 million? If they only take 100,000 and they're earning 8%, what happens to their little retirement graph as they go at age 85, 95? It's going up. Their 2 million is going to continue to grow if they only live off 100 when they're already generating 160 per year. So they are good. All right, Crystal. Crystal's 47 years old. She's a high school principal making 75 grand a year. She has a 401k valued at 85,000. Crystal would like to retire at age 65 with 1.2. She plans to contribute 12,000 a year to her retirement fund, which is currently growing at 10%. Will she make it? So what I want you to calculate on your papers is how many years does she have to reach her goal? How many years? She's currently 47. She's looking to retire at 65. How many years does she have to go? 18. What's her current balance? 75,000, 85,000. So we go to our financial calculator, 85,000. How much is she putting in per month? 1,000. So she's really ramping it up, right? 1,000 per month, getting how much interest? 10% is her expected growth rate. How many years again? 18. Boy, we're learning how to see what she's got. And does she have enough?
Wait, what she want?
What does she want again? 1.2 is what was on the, it was just in the paragraph that I deleted already. Is she going to get it?
No.
No. So what does she need to do to get it?
Add more money per month.
Add more money per month is one way. Well, how else could she potentially get there? Find a different mutual fund that earns a higher rate. And then what's the last thing she could do to get there? There's only 3 variables that we have. Yeah, work another year, right? Change this. So if you think about it, when it comes to advice like this, you either got to change this, or change this. Now, which one would you advise her to do? Contribute more, work longer, or find a better mutual fund? Work longer? Which one would she be most certain about today? Working an extra year at the end of her years, finding another mutual fund that's going to earn another rate, or contributing currently a little bit more from each paycheck? Which one does she have the most certainty on? Controlling the amount she contributes. Right, so this one has the most certainty to get her to her goal. Does she know what her health is gonna be at year 18? No, right? She could be almost disabled or whatever, can't work. We don't know that. Is she gonna be able to find a better mutual fund? Well, 10% is right in our expected rate. She might switch and actually get 9%. So we gotta assume she's investing her cookies in the right spot. It is what it is. That's the thing she would need to change, that contribution. All right. Yeah, let's switch to 1100. Josh wants to see. I've done this so many times. The answer is no, I think. 1.176. And just because we're out of time, I'll tell you, I think 1150 does it. But this is how you can play around with this. There we go. 1150 got her up to 1.2.